Thank you. I'll call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock. Hello, everyone. Hi, Joe. Hi, Nick. Hi, Wayne.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Tom is with us after a hiatus with difficulties, internet difficulties, but now that we have hybrid meetings, we're very happy to have him back here. I will read the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hadiwandawung, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any declarations of interest?
None here.
Okay. Then can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor O'Hare moves, Joe seconds, then everyone in favor? Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, then this is moved. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the April 25th meeting, please? Joe has moved. Can I have somebody? And Tom has seconded. All in favor? All right. Anyone opposed? No? Then that is moved. Correspondence. We had, I was approached by a young man called Milan Kirchik, who owns the Edward Beatty House on Sullivan Avenue now. We'll get to that a little bit later in the meeting. And Joe, I understand that you had correspondence that...
Yes, I did, Madam Chair. I received an email from a committee member from the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee. And apparently they had discussed in their last meeting what a member rose was he wanted to talk about Memorial Park and restoring the park back to what it was back in the, say, 30s and 40s, where it had the band shell, and it was used basically as a sort of like a community meeting place. And I don't know when the band shell actually disappeared, but my response to him, I took it upon myself to answer this because I've been involved with other groups that have reached out wanting to do something in Memorial Park. And I pointed out to this gentleman that the park is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, and that the agreement, the understanding between LACAC and the city is that the park is a passive park and has been since it was designated and will remain a passive park. His intentions were taking it to a point where there would be celebrations and gatherings, which I don't think the city ever felt was something that you would want to do to a park that's dedicated to war veterans that have lost their lives. It's basically it is a park where you can sit in the benches and just reflect in a very serene environment, and you know, think about the war heroes that are engraved on the tombstones in there. I gave him that basic answer, and he replied and he thanked me for providing him with that information. So I suspect that they will not move forward with that on that issue now.
Okay, thank you. Any other correspondence? Well, there wasn't any to me. Then we'll move on to financial. Council approved our budget at $11,800 for the year. That's $500 more than initially intended, so that's great. We still have some obligations from last term, though, that we have to pay for, so we have to watch our budget for the rest of this year and see what we can do with that. And we'll just deal with that as we get to it. We'll see whether we can possibly afford a second designation. If not, maybe we can, if we're lucky enough to find an owner who is willing to designate, we can maybe start on it by having the research done, but then pay for the rest of it later in the year. We'll just see how this will go for the rest of the year. Any invoices for payment? I haven't received any, though I know of one that will be coming in within the next few weeks. Nick, sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you. I did receive the total from Morgan for the advertising for the designation, and I think it was $938. So there'll be an invoice for that that'll be forwarded to be paid, and then I expect there'll be the same amount to advertise once it's actually been adopted by council this evening. So that gives I guess, a benchmark of what to expect for advertising fees.
Oh, that was for the advertising of the designation in the paper, in any kind of publications.
That's correct, because under the Heritage Act, it has to be advertised in a local paper with circulation. So
yeah, Joe.
That's the cost for that.
Joe.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to Nick, just to let you know, I had it pointed out to me by the mayor in a conversation some time ago that the city pays for that. It doesn't come out of LACAC's budget.
Councillor?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, Joe's absolutely right. In the past, these advertising bills were paid by the city, so I'm not sure why we're being billed this time around. So we'll need to look into that. Thank you.
Okay, I can check into that, certainly.
Okay, great. Then any sales of the Beaver Dams books?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think what we'll do with the books for the time being, I'll hang on to them, because with the city redoing the websites, and we seem to want to do away with online sales through Heritage Thorold. We'll see what the city wants to do on their end, and I think it would be best to do what I had suggested earlier this year, that the books be stored over at the Lock 7 Viewing Center, and they can take care of sales from that point. That's what they so choose to do.
Okay, sounds good. I have a few myself as well that I can add to that pile, and they were handed over to me by Craig when he retired from the chair position. All right. Ongoing business, we have the Beaver Dams Church. Linda is not here right now. If she comes, she's the one who generally reports on it, but I think, Councillor, you've also been at the church recently. Any news to report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The best news is that the painting is complete. It looks fantastic. Joe, I don't know if you've been out there, but it's amazing. And your lovely sconces that you and Linda donated look fabulous. They're really, really nice on the wall. And just a little plug for the church. There will be the Strawberry Fest coming up on June 17th. And hopefully everyone will be able to make it. And at that time, the church will be open, so you will be able to come in and see the fantastic restoration job that's been achieved. Thank you.
All right. Then moving on to the Stone Store, there's probably not too much news to report. They're still working on the facade. From what I saw, the old Gypsy Alley sign has been taken down, and whatever is underneath exposed, and now they will move on to fixing up that facade and restoring it. We have John Lally's assurance that we will be approached about everything that they will be doing, and that it's approved by us. Joe, have you heard anything new from John since?
No, not lately.
Okay. Then we leave that for now until Councillor?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to add one last thing, it's coming to council tonight, the exact same drawings and sketches that had been submitted to LACAC, and that's just coming for final approval of the funds for the renovation of the storefront. So that'll be on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Somehow I thought that was already approved. But, okay, good. Installation of history plaques. The Dobie House. I've been at the Dobie House 3 or 4 times, and I've never been so lucky as to find somebody there in order to ask where to install the history plaque that is still missing from that house. I will persevere and try and reach somebody just to get their input where they would like it, and as soon as I know, who is that who we let know? Sydney, is it Public Works who installs? Yeah, we'll let Public Works know to finally install that stand and the plaque. Speaking of stands, there was a little bit of a confusion where they were. They couldn't be found for a few days because there have been some changes with storage facilities in the city, but we have found them. Councillor O'Hare got the news this morning. 4 stands have been found, so that's great. I don't know yet about the plaques for the Dobie House and the Stone Store. As soon as we know, we'll make sure that, yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor O'Hare, when did you find out about the discovery of the stands? Because I had 2 city workers out in front of my house this morning. They were measuring our stand because they said they couldn't find them, and I assured them that we knew, but we didn't know where they were stored. So they were going to go to somebody that one of the guys knew to have one manufactured right away. So we do have 4?
We do.
So through you, Madam Chair, the phone call came at 8:50 this morning.
Okay, that was just after they were at my place.
We're very elated.
Yeah, well, it would have been a little bit of a hassle to get our lock designated on Canada Day if we couldn't have located those stands. We probably would have had to improvise somehow, but they're there, we have them, so that's great.
Okay, good.
With regard to the Stone Store, of course, the installation of the plaque will be delayed until the work on their facade is finished. The Monroe House issue will defer to a later meeting. Now, the website. I have spoken to Matthew, and almost all the city committee websites will at one point be incorporated into the City of Thorold's website instead of being independent. With regard to our website, which was newly designed, the whole process started early 2020 and is only in the finishing stages now, it will be still be used until the website is incorporated into the city website. Obviously, people need access to heritage information. I have asked Mark, the website designer, to finalize it as quickly and as simply as possible, since it won't be a long-standing site, and to send an invoice so that he can be paid. I haven't heard back from him yet. As soon as I do, I will let you know, and we'll deal with that then. But in the future, the city will post our information about our designated properties and about heritage in general. I have been assured that we will have input on what is on the heritage section of the city's website. And quite honestly, I personally prefer that. That the city manages the website instead of us. It certainly takes an onus off our shoulders. I'm not sure what your opinions are on that. As long as we have the information that is important on the website, then I think it doesn't need to be an independent website. Oh, I should also mention that if somebody Googles, for instance, Heritage Thorold, that there will be a link to the city's website, to the appropriate section of the city's website, so that people can go there. They might not automatically Google the city's website in order to get information about heritage. Any comments?
Very good.
Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick one, and I don't know if we have an answer for this yet, but are there any outstanding invoices prior to Mark's final invoice that still hasn't been paid? Or is he just invoicing us the one time?
Any, Tom, Joe, do you have any information about that? Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we agreed to have Mark redo the website, we gave him a 50% deposit, and the balance was to be paid upon completion. And I believe we probably owe him roughly $1,800, give or take, somewhere around there. I think it was like $3,600 he originally quoted us. I'm sure you would be able to find that in minutes from previous meetings.
That's my understanding too. And then I think there was a yearly maintenance fee, which I think we have already been invoiced for, and I think that has been paid from what I remember. I'd have to look into that. But
yes, that was $300.
Yeah, it was $300 and some dollars. And I think in one of our previous meetings, it was mentioned that had been paid. But I'll look into that just to make sure that that is correct. Any other comments with regards to the website?
No.
No? Okay. Heritage permit status update. Nick, do you have any comments with regards to that? I seem to remember that you said something you might want to look into a possibility of getting that started.
I did chat briefly with Morgan about it, and there hasn't been any action taken yet. We were talking about if there's a student that could assist with that, but otherwise then, I know we talked last meeting about starting a working group, so that might be an option too.
Okay.
So I guess stay tuned.
All right. So if we could be informed once that student is tasked with that and work can start on that, that would be great. Thank you. Downtown facade program. I see here there have been no new applications, Sydney, for, okay, great. Tourism Advisory Committee. For those of you who don't know, Eva Salter has resigned from the committee for personal reasons. Of course, we'll miss her, her expertise and her passion for heritage is amazing, and I know that I will miss her greatly, but we wish her all the best. But she also was our Tourism Advisory Committee representative. So now that she has resigned, we need a new one. And so let's choose a new person to sit in on the Tourism Advisory Committee right now to make sure that somebody's present at their next meeting. Yes, Joe?
I'm willing to take that position if the committee's okay with it.
Absolutely. Shall we move on that? Okay. So everyone in favor of Joe taking that position? Oh, yes, sorry. Can we move, can we have a motion on Joe taking that position? Yes, it's moved by Wynne. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor O'Hare. Everyone in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, then that is carried. All right, Joe, you're now our new and old tourism rep. Congratulations.
It's a swinging door.
I know. All right. Are there any, does anyone have any news with regard to the tourism committee? Since we haven't had a rep in the last meeting, I guess we don't. Okay. There is some news with regards to tourism. Joe and I, and also members of the tourism committee and the events committee were at Lock 7 in a meeting with Ken Scholten, just talking about giving tourism a push in Thorold, which we all think is very important. So there are plans from the side of the city to make that happen. And of course, Heritage will play a large part in building up tourism in Thorold. So that's also why we need a rep on the tourism committee. But more about that in our next meeting, once we've also had the chance to sit in on a tourism advisory committee meeting. Beaver Dams Park lock designation. I'm happy to announce that it's moving ahead very nicely. The bylaw is coming before council tonight and hopefully will be passed. Thanks again, Nick, for all your help with that. And also to all the city employees who made that happen. I know this was chaotic and done in a terrible rush, but we are absolutely thrilled that we are at this point now. We've already talked about the stands. As soon as I get info from the city when they will be installing that, I'll also be very happy to go and indicate exactly where. We have chosen a spot that is ideal. And yes, so we're hoping to see everybody on Canada Day to celebrate the designation of this important part of Thorold's history. Any comments with regard to the lock designation? No. Then moving on to the heritage inventory list. Wynne, you have been involved in the subcommittee putting together the lists of our most important heritage assets. Thanks again, outstanding work that you and Eva have done together with Sarah, who assisted you. We have, as Eva already pointed out last time in our last meeting, we have two choices here. We can either put together a list of potential heritage designation potentials, or and have it approved by council, but that would mean that after 2 years they would be taken off that list. The other option is we do not assemble a list. I'll ask Wynne what the preference is of the subcommittee who assembled the list. You worked on it, you can tell us what the subcommittee decided would be the best course of action.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll refrain from answering that at this time just because I am still getting caught up from my month away. So I don't remember exactly where we left off and I don't want to misspeak right now.
Okay. From what I remember, the subcommittee's preference would have been not to assemble a list because it would be very short term anyway. The only advantage really of having buildings on that list would be that there would be a 60-day demolition stay for buildings on that list. After 60 days, if they're not designated, it would just move forward like any other project. From Nick, I know that came up between you and Eva last time, that buildings that are not on a council-approved potential list can still be designated if there are no prescribed events, like no planning applications for developments or anything of that nature. And Eva actually at the time confirmed with the heritage expert from the ministry that that is indeed the case. If there is no planning application or any other prescribed event, it doesn't matter if a building is on a list in order for a notice of intent to designate to be given.
That's correct. It is the distinction. If you have a planning application underway, then if something comes in and it's not listed, then you're stuck and you can't designate it. So that's the advantage, I guess, of having properties on the register. But you're correct. If there's no planning application or no prescribed events, then any property can be designated.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We have that distinction sorted.
Okay. So can I ask from any committee members whether they have any preference what they would like to do, whether we should assemble a list? It would be not current anymore after 2 years though. But here's a question also to you, Nick. If a building is taken off that list after 2 years and there's no prescribed event, can it then, like any other building, still be designated, even if it's not on that list any longer?
I think as long as there's no prescribed event, then you would be able to do that.
Okay.
You just would lose the 60-day
Yeah.
protection against demolition if there's something.
Okay. So any input from members whether we should put together a short list or whether we should just leave it?
Good question.
Okay, so let's just put that on hold for now, and I think the list. Nick, can I ask one more question? I assume, since this list can only last for 2 years, that after 2 years you can put another list together of other buildings, not the same ones, because of course they have to be off the list for 5 years before they can reappear. But theoretically, you could then assemble another list of buildings that then would be valid for the next 2 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. You could in theory do that. You could have a rolling list of properties that you have as, say if you have 100 properties and you have 20 on the list, and then, every so often you just kind of rotate them out.
Yeah.
So that would be a way to provide some protection.
Yeah.
If there are properties really of interest, you could select a handful of those and then rotate through like that.
And if that's the case, if we can, add new lists, then also we don't really have to provide a list by July, because you can theoretically assemble a list for 2 years at any time, can't you?
That's correct. So you have your list of non-designated properties, and then it's just the caveat that particular properties can only be on for a period of 2 years.
Yeah. So only if we knew of buildings that are in danger of being affected by a prescribed event, we really should get them on a list right now.
Yeah, if there were buildings that you knew were in an area likely to see, if there's likely to be applications come forward or likely to see a lot of change in the next little bit, that would be a good spot to start if there are properties you wanted to ensure do have that added protection.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. All right. If there's no other comments, then let's move on to the next item, Heritage Impact Statement. I have not worked on the heritage impact statement because of the heritage presentation that I've been working on, which is happening tonight, by the way. As I assume nobody else has either. Joe, Wynn? No, I didn't think so. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, but let's keep that in mind to have maybe an update on that for the next meeting. New business, Ellenberg Church and Trinity United Church, no news with both those items, so refer those to the next meeting unless anybody has news. Tom, have you heard anything about the Ellenberg Church? No. Joe?
No, I haven't.
No, okay. Edward Beatty House, that is a new issue that came up. I had an email from a young man called Milan Kurchik, and he's the new owner of the Edward Beatty House. He asked Heritage Thorold to approve a new roof on the building. Joe and I have gone to see him, very nice young man. He wants to do it all right, and the building is also not designated for its architectural merits, but basically for its historic significance, being the birthhouse of Edward Beatty. All he wants to do is replace a leaky roof. He's not going to change any of the roof shape. He's just going to, it's a straightforward repair job, which is of course perfectly permissible. Joe, do you have anything to add to this?
No, he's going to do a little bit of interior work that isn't really any concern of ours, but he seems to be ambitious. He really wants to clean it up, and he's got plans for it for the future, and hopefully it's going to work out for him.
Yeah. Oh, he's also a real estate agent, and he said he would welcome a presentation by Heritage Thorold to the real estate community to educate realtors about what it means to sell, buy, or own a designated building. So I thought that was really great, and Joe and I already told him we'd be perfectly willing to supply an info session for him and his colleagues. I think that would be actually a very good thing to have our realtors know what to tell their clients when they either sell or buy a heritage property. Next item on the list is the Flannery House. That's actually right across the street from you, Wynn. The owners have plans to add a upstairs bathroom, and that will mean an extension to one part of the house. I have looked at the property from the front, from each side. I've looked at the plans. I was advised to check the standards and guidelines in the Heritage Act. There are actually not really any standards and guidelines for municipally designated structures, just for provincially designated ones. So basically it's up to us whether this is acceptable. I have been told that a heritage expert should approve the plans, and also that the bylaw needs to be amended since part of the roof shape, not visible from the front, will be changed. From what I have been told, the owners approached Mark Schultz about this, and he recommended the architect who supplied the plans. Joe, do you know Mark Schultz personally?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, he's well known and well respected in the heritage community throughout Ontario. He's been involved in major projects in Toronto.
Yeah.
He's the overseeing architectural engineer for Beaver Dams Church right now. He's done lots of work down in Niagara on the Lake, different areas. If he comes to a conclusion that he's satisfied with what the owners are putting forward, I think we can go with what he says.
Yeah. Since you know him, would you mind sending him a note, ask him whether he has seen the plans and whether he approves them?
Okay, yeah,
Great,
I
awesome.
will.
It's basically a second floor addition to a part of the building which is already an addition to the original house. So the second floor is not going to be on any part of the original house. However, the roof will jut out from the original roof line of the original kitchen wing. From the front, you don't really see it. And from the Portland Street side, you do not see it either. Only when you come down Welland Street, and even there, most of it is covered by either tree growth or the house next to it. So it's not particularly disturbing, but I would also like to know Mark Schultz's opinion about it. And then, of course, we would have to make sure that there's absolute transparency. Just one second, Nick. From on the part of the owner as work progresses, in case there are any changes to the original plans. Yes, Nick?
I was just going to say that the way you've described it, it sounds like an appropriate way to do an addition to the building. And you mentioned before about the standards and guidelines, and they're probably talking about the Parks Canada standards and guidelines.
Oh, okay.
So it talks about if you're doing additions to historic buildings and restorations and all kinds of things like that. So I was just going to suggest it might be useful for the committee if Mark is going to take a look at it and comment that maybe he references back to the standards and guidelines, and then also what's in the designated bylaw in terms of heritage attributes. So maybe he could just comment on whether or not there's going to be any possible impact on heritage attributes. That's really the test under the Act. So if he has a conclusion on that, that would be a really simple way to have everything laid out for the committee.
Okay, great. I mean, I've been in the house. I can see the need for a second bathroom in there. It has one tiny bathroom on the first floor. For a house of that caliber, that is very little in this day and age. The way it's proposed doesn't look terrible. It seems to be within, what we would want to see. We just have to make sure once the plans are approved that they stay that way and that they're not changed to something else later on in the process. But I like that suggestion, so if you could mention that to Mark, Joe, when you get in touch with him, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. Sarah, in her report about the lock, pointed out that there is no plaque really commemorating the important role that Indigenous people played in the victory in the Battle of Beaver Dams. And that really is something that should be brought to the city's attention, and it should be changed. There should be a plaque added to the cairn that commemorates this role. And Sarah at the time suggested that we approach Michelle Elise Burnett about finding a person who can word an appropriate plaque from the Indigenous community. And from what I understand, Sarah has already approached Michelle Elise about that, and she might already have approached the mayor about this, but it's something that we should talk to our council rep when he had to take off to another city event, but he should bring that up at council, that a plaque like that should be added to that cairn. It's really important that that is done. But there's no other news with regards to that yet, but I think we should get that moving as soon as possible. And it shouldn't really be just a heritage item. It should just be something that the city does in acknowledgement. I have been approached, and Joe actually has been too, by members of the Legion about an additional plaque in Memorial Park acknowledging the fallen soldiers, the soldiers fallen in the Afghanistan war. The issue with that particular plaque is that they would like to list the names of those soldiers, and that would be all Canadians who lost their lives in that conflict. The other plaques in Memorial Park only list Thorold residents. The fact is that in the Afghanistan conflict, all the names just happen to fit on a plaque. And so it's possible to do that. In the First and Second World War, there were just way too many names to put on plaques. The Legion members who approached us, argument also is that there are numerous comrades of these people who are still alive and who live in the area who would like to see the names of their fallen comrades on that plaque. I personally, even though no other plaque in that park has all the names of fallen soldiers on them, I personally don't have any problem with that being done. Any comments from any of you? Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I don't disagree. I think it is a war memorial park, so to speak. And okay, when the first statue was put up in 1919, yes, it was dedicated to the Thorold fallen soldiers. But the conflicts that have gone on throughout the world, I think it becomes more important that we respect the wishes of the Legion and Canadian Corps, because they've been involved in representing Canadian soldiers per se, not just soldiers from Thorold. So they open their doors and they welcome any Legion member. They're a Canadian-wide organization. They're linked to the American Veterans Association. So I think we should respect their wishes and go ahead with a plaque that will give the names of the fallen Canadian soldiers for that particular war. And we can look at it in the future if there is another approach for another conflict where there'll be a need to recognize fallen soldiers.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments? No? Okay. Then moving on to heritage walking tours, there's actually two different ones. Joe and I have met with members of the events committee and the tourism committee about finally bringing walking tours back to the table. Marsha, from the chair of the events committee, is very passionate about this project, and she approached Heritage to supply some information that would help in the setting up of heritage walking tours. That's how far we are right now. There will be, I'm sure, meetings in the future to suggest certain tours and what would be on them, and also some info that she's talking about digital tours, not personally guided ones, the information that people could get off their phone apps, I hope I'm not using the wrong word here, in order to get information about our heritage sites or about canal history or things like that. There's a second run of walking tours that is organized by the Age Friendly Committee, and that is less of a tourism thing that is more for Thorold residents as sort of an inclusion and community events initiative. I was approached by the Age Friendly Committee about that and asked whether we knew of anybody who would be interested in guiding tours like this in different parts of the city. I've approached Tom, who volunteered to help out as much as he can in Port Robinson, and Tom's friend, Fred Addis, who is a fond of knowledge on Port Robinson, apparently has said he would be part of this as well.
Fred is a published author. He has published books on the Welland Canal. He's a former resident of Port Robinson. He lives in Arroyo at this time, but he said he'd be more than happy to get involved and supply his expertise.
Great. And Craig Finley, our former chair, has volunteered to help out here in downtown Toronto, oh my God, sorry, Thorold, so that is wonderful. He'll be, I'm sure, a great person to guide heritage tours. All right, any comments to walking tours? Yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, when we had that meeting where we met with Tony and Marcia, we also talked about the heritage banners too downtown.
Right.
I believe the next tourism committee meeting is going to be next Thursday. So when I attend that, I'll raise that to see what Marcia is going to be bringing to the table at the Tourism Advisory Committee meeting with respect to walking tours. And I had raised the banners with the tourism committee a couple of years ago. It kind of fell by the wayside. There didn't seem to be much interest, but it appears now that there is the interest with Marcia and Tony. I think they want to get into that. I did provide Marcia a list of must be about 20 or 25 candidates that were early contributors to Thorold's development throughout the 1800s. So it could really add to the downtown streetscape. It would give us an opportunity to probably spread some of the Prince of Wales banners around to Port Robinson and perhaps Allenburg to get them involved. And maybe with this list, there could be people that were important to Allenburg or Port Robinson that we may put one of those banners down there to give them a feeling of being included in Thorold's history.
Yeah, great idea. Yes, Tom?
A number of years ago, Craig Finley and I actually did tours of the city of Thorold, and I spoke to Craig about this, and he still has his information readily available on a tour. He said he could have it up and going in about 10 minutes as far as providing information for a tour. And I did tours of Port Robinson at the 2015. So again, it wouldn't take a lot of effort, to get this going.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I could just add there through Madam Chair to Tom, is this something that maybe you're suggesting I raise at the Tourism Advisory Committee meeting and get them involved to see what's involved?
Oh, for sure. As I said, I'd be glad to get involved and help in any way I can.
Okay.
Now, the walking tours that you were approached about was actually initiated by the Age Friendly Committee. However, I don't see why that can't also involve. They want basically to strengthen Thorold's community spirit by involving different parts of Thorold's in these kind of events. So they see it more as a community inclusion event. However, there's no reason why we can't also do something that like that for tourists. Tourism, I think, is something that should be fostered in Thorold and can be fostered. I think we have ideal conditions, and it could mean amazing new opportunities in terms of, yes, Joe?
Through you, Madam Chair, then if the Age Friendly is looking at wanting to do something, perhaps they should work through the Community Events Committee. And have them operate it.
Yeah, they were not actually asking so much for our involvement. I think they mainly wanted advice who they could approach about guiding these tours, and that's where I suggest, well, actually I didn't suggest Tom and Craig, it was Randy Barnes who did. I then promised I would approach the two of them and find out whether they'd be willing. But I don't think the Heritage Committee would be greatly involved past this point after.
Right.
We can concentrate our efforts on the tourism aspect of guided tours, which would be like these tours that Tom and Craig will be conducting will be one-offs or two-offs. That won't be a regular thing. Whereas if we want to have tours in Thorold that involve tourists, we're probably talking a much more ongoing initiative, not, every once in a while events.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, next thing, work plan, designation priorities. I have sent out some letters to possible heritage potentials. I have actually hand-delivered most of them. A lot of the owners weren't home at the time. With some of them I've chatted. I haven't heard back from most of them. I had one response. I'm not going to say anything right now because it's very early days. But interest has been piqued, and it's a very important heritage asset. So if anything comes of that, would be fantastic. But since I've only just had a very informal response, I'm not going to get into this right now. But I will keep everyone informed should this develop any further. And there's still multiple other addresses where I will send letters to. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult if it's a commercial building or a downtown building to even know who the owner is. Sydney, way I can add addresses to send letters to the owners of certain buildings.
Through you, Madam Chair, there is a roll book at the front desk that you're able to look up the names of owners of all the properties in Thorold.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Any comments with regards to that?
No.
No. Okay. History plaques for designated properties. Well, we're working on that. The stands have been found. That's great news. So one, of course, will be taken for the Lock 25 designation. Another one is already spoken for the Dobie House once we can get in touch with the owners and find the plaque. And of course, this will be a priority also if ever there is leftover money in our budget at the end of the year to purchase additional plaques and stands, or actually stands. This is already designated properties, plaques and stands for designated properties that do not have a history plaque yet. So we're working on them, we're chipping away at them, and whenever we can afford to do one, we will. Any other comments? Yes, Tom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking of the plaques and the stands, Joe, actually, you put your thinking cap on. A couple of years ago, we had this discussion about the inventory And I know there was concerns of what we did have and what we didn't have. So, you know, we know now that we have the 4 posts or 4 stands. Was there anything else that we talked about at that time that was uncertain in terms of inventory? Did it ever turn up in the last couple of years with the pandemic? It sort of got lost in the shuffle.
Not that I'm aware of. I think we had a hard time keeping track because the city was using multiple facilities for storage. But I do think that at the end of the day, we were finding what we were looking for. I don't think, if we go back into the earlier minutes, I don't think we have anything that actually gives us the ability to say exactly what we know we've got. I don't think our record keeping really gave us a true readout of what we had for inventory, but we did talk at times if we needed to order something, and then we talked that, well, we don't because we think we have 4, but I don't think we ever reached out to the city to ask for confirmation.
Okay.
So I think we're lucky that we did find these 4 stands.
I was aware that we did have surplus stands a couple of years ago. I spoke with Scott Walton from the cemetery department a few days ago, and he actually approached me and said, "Do you know if we have any stands?" And so that's how this process got started. In further discussion with him, again, going back a couple of years, you and I had talked about the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery and,
Yep.
and the designation that was done there. Well, sometime during the pandemic, the plaque was stolen.
That is a bronze plaque that was stolen.
Yes.
I talked to Steve Fulton about that. He's with the Ontario Genealogical Society. And he indicated back then that if we wanted to get it replaced, that the Ontario Genealogical Society would contribute half the funds to have it replaced. But because of the pandemic, this kind of fell by the wayside. I think when I was talking to him about that, we were dealing with DeCue Terrace and where the Smith Cemetery boundaries, what the limits were, because we did find some tombstones that we believed had been moved. But to get back to the Smith Bald Cemetery, I think besides the bronze plaque, that cemetery, when it was designated, I believe the stand was one of the very first ones we used, which is steel. And I think it's in very bad shape. So it also needs the stand to be replaced for the history plaque, to replace it with a stainless one. So I can go out someday and have a look just to see what's going on in terms of what needs to be replaced, and possibly reach out with Steve Fulton again.
Okay, well, I was out there a couple of days ago, and I agree with you. It does need to replace the entire unit. It was one of the first ones that we did. And,
Yes.
And the family actually was asking me about it. And later on in this meeting, when we come to other business, I have some other information, an update on the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery. But I'll contact Steve, or if you want to do it, that either way, it doesn't matter. But they've asked me if we could get it replaced.
Sure. Okay. I'll reach out to Steve.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments with regards to history plaques for designated properties? No. Then towpath signage and plaquing recognition, we already touched on that. Anything else you want to add to that, Joe? You probably already.
No, not right now.
Okay. Heritage Thorold presentation, this is the last time this will be mentioned because it's happening tonight. I'll be doing a short presentation to council about the importance of our heritage. One important issue. There's going to be a new official plan that is going to be implemented, I think, at the end of this year. And I was told by Matthew that the Heritage Committee will have the opportunity to share their opinions, ideas, and with planners and other city staff with regards to that. Since that offer has been made, I think we should take it, and as soon as we're invited to a meeting, or if we're asked to give our comments, I think we should stay on top of that and make sure that we do. Anything anyone else wants to add to that? No, but it's important, so let's keep our eyes on that. It would be great to be able to at least give our input. Okay, then we come to the, Nick, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to add that I know the process is just starting to get underway, and it's to implement the new regional official plan that was just approved. So then there's the local municipality has to update theirs as well. So I expect there will be a request for comments, and there'll be a draft of the document come out before it's finally adopted by council. So I don't know if they'll ask for comments before that draft is available or as it's being drafted, or but sometime in that. So there definitely will be an opportunity to give comments and then have that reflected in the draft, and the committee will get a chance to see it before it's approved by council.
Okay, great. So if you hear anything about, maybe a possible input that we can have, will you let us know?
Definitely, I will.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Then we arrive to our roundtable discussion. Joe.
I don't think I have anything to add today.
Okay. Win? No? Ricardo, would you like to make any comments?
No, I don't think I have anything to add today, but thank you.
All right. Tom, I bet you have.
Yes, I do, actually. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery, there's an update that I want to bring to the committee. The family has decided to add a second monument to the site. The monument will be in place in approximately 1 month. What it is for, it's a bit of a complicated story, but John Carl, who was a member of Butler's Rangers, for his service to our country during the American Revolution, was awarded 440 acres, and that consists of most of what Port Robinson is today. Upon his death, he was not buried in his own cemetery. He had previously sold 200 acres to the Welland Canal Company to allow the extension of the canal from Port Robinson through to Port Coburn. He had his wife moved, she had died and was buried there. He had his wife moved to the Friends Cemetery in Fawn Hill, and he later was buried in Fawn Hill also. The family, in looking at his tombstone about 3 or 4 years ago, decided that they would like to have a new stone put up because the old stone was very difficult to read. And they asked me to get involved in the project, and I did. Now, what has happened is through the process of getting permissions from the Friends Cemetery and also the various other areas that we needed to receive permission, we removed the old tombstone, and it was replaced with a new stone showing his rank as a private in the Butler's Rangers, and also the insignia of Butler's Rangers on the new stone. So the question arose, what should we do with the old stone? And this brings us back to the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery in Port Robinson. The family decided to have a new stone commissioned. The old stone, once removed, it turned out to be marble, not limestone. So we had the stone cleaned and restored, and the new stone is going to be a fairly large stone, and the old stone is going to be set into the new stone. And that is what is going to be returned to the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery. In addition to that, there's going to be a plaque that's on the back of the new stone in Port Robinson explaining the history of John Carl and the Port Robinson community. So this is in process now. I spoke with Scott Walton last week at the cemetery. We laid out the actual location. He is going to put the footing in the next 10 days or so, and the stone is already completed, and it then will be installed in the Carl Meisner Bald Cemetery. So to finalize the story, on the 24th of June, at the Friends Cemetery in Fonthill on Hayes Road at 2 o'clock on the 24th, as I said, there will be a ceremony there unveiling the new stone and also advising folks that the original stone will be relocated to Port Robinson. Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Tom. Well, that was very comprehensive. So, have you seen what is being relocated to the Carl Meisner?
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks good to you.
Oh, lovely, really good. And the old stone, actually, the old stone, we thought, because we originally thought it was limestone, and it was, pretty well cooked. When we had it cleaned and restored, you could read it perfectly, and what the family has done actually is had his name and the information that was on the stone marked out so you can read it very clearly. But it really looks good.
Okay, great. Awesome, thank you for that.
And I was thinking we might, once this is in and we have, some of us can go and have a look at it, we might want to include some of the story on our website.
All right. In the Carl Meisner section of the...
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah, okay, good.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Nick, would you like to say something?
Just that I'm excited that we can have the designation come forward tonight. So I'm excited. I'll be at the council meeting, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to see your presentation as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm very
That's all.
excited too. It's really great to see it come to conclusion. All right, then I can't believe that we actually are running just over an hour. That's the shortest meeting this term yet. Then the next meeting is scheduled for June 27th, Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. It's going to be a hybrid meeting again. And if that is it, if there's no further business, then this meeting is now adjourned at 11.